Hey, we're back with the Texas RV professor, Terry Cooper, and we're talking about getting ready to go before you go in that RV for the season. The things that you ought to be doing to make sure that you don't have a problem down the road.
That's
And
right.
that's what we're going to be talking about. And first thing we do is we start using our old eyeballs, don't we? Just looking things over.
So much of what we do is the visual. That tells us everything.
Uh huh.
It really does. I mean, yes, we're going to pull out our air gauge and all those other things, but that's part of the reason why we want to do a visual. We want to go over it and just check it out from stem to stern.
Okay. Well, the first thing, one of the things that's really important, of course, is the roof or roof. Which I was going to ask you, which do you in Waco is it roof or roof?
Uh, I like to call it a roof.
Roof. Okay. All right. So we'll go with roof. I don't know. In Indiana, we some people say roof, and then I don't. Some people say other things too, but that's roof. Anyway, so the first thing we start off with, is, of course, is the exterior inspections on your roof, and how do we do that? How do we start out with that?
Well, believe it or not, we need to have a system.
Mm-hmm.
What I find is that if we're a little more methodical, we'll not miss anything. And we want to make sure we have our system, have our little checklist. We want to make sure that we check our coach battery power because that's going to be critical for us because there's a lot of things we're going to do to this RV during this get ready time that's going to require 12 volts. We're going to make sure we plug it into shore power because we're going to want that converter to running to keep powering up that battery.
Right.
We're going to extend our stabilizers and our jacks and get all that thing going. Because I don't know about you, I'm not a real big fan about being up on a roof of an RV unless these stabilizers are down and that thing's got some of the wobble taken out.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, here again, you're going to want to extend your room slide outs because you're going to look at the top side of these slide out units because they have the same roof material that's on the regular
Oh,
body.
right. Yeah. Is that something that gets overlooked from time to time because it's just the slide out and people don't slide them out and look?
Absolutely. And then what happens is that first good rain, and all of a sudden someone's sitting there at the sofa or they're kicked back in their recliner taking a short little nap, and
Mm-hmm.
water's dripping on them like Chinese torture.
Yeah, yeah. Or you've got your microwave in that little nook, and it's starting to take on water, which is probably not a good thing for the electrical
Not a
system,
good thing.
right? Yeah.
Not a good thing.
What? Yeah. Now, does that roof in the slide out take more wear and tear generally, or are they kind of built so that they don't?
Well, the problem we have with them is they're usually flat. And
Mm-hmm.
so to get the water to roll off of them, you have to make sure that you've got all the corners and edges sealed because sometimes that water will puddle. And unless we've got just a little bit of tilt on that rig, that water's going to stay up there. So that's really the big thing with it is it's such a flat surface.
Okay. All right. So let's. What our next thing is, you plug the RV into shore power and then extend the room slide outs. Um,
I mean,
so
that's really important because on that, a lot of people will take the shortcut and not realizing that electric motor, whether it's running the hydraulics or the screw jack or the screw, is pulling a tremendous amount of amperage, and that battery is the only thing that can give it what it needs, not the
okay.
converter.
Not the converter. Okay.
Correct.
So, well, where do we start on the on this roof inspection? At assuming we're back up on we actually get to the roof and we're feeling stable and all that, and we've got everything exposed like it should be. What's next?
Well, honestly, the first thing we want to do is make sure we know where we are. If we're up on that roof, bouncing around, taking a look at things, let's know where the edges are. Know where the edge of that roof is because it's a long ways down, particularly if you land on your back. I like to start on the front, up on that front area where the roof and the front nose cone match up because
Mm-hmm.
that's where a lot of damage has a potential to really crop up.
Mm-hmm. Is that because just wind resistance as it's going down the road and that kind of stuff? Is that where that starts?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you figure, if you're running down the highway 55, 60 miles an hour, that's a lot of push on that nose cone. And so those screws, that trim, that sealant, all of that's kind of moving and flexing. And then you have a semi truck pass you, add another 60 or 70 miles an hour on it. So it adds up real quick.
Okay. Now
The
here.
big issue that we deal with, quite honestly, Dave,
Mm-hmm.
is the sealing, and people think that they're doing themselves a favor when they use that silicone caulk. And I guess if I can become a preacher or a minister on this thing, is that folks leave the silicone off the rubber roof because it doesn't work on that rubber roof. It doesn't bond to that rubber, that EPDM rubber.
Now that picture on the left is that we're seeing on our screen right now. Is that silicone caulk debonding there?
Exactly. Someone came in and thought they were really doing a slick job there, and they went
Mm-hmm.
ahead and tried to seal that joint between that front and that roof. And we just reach over there and just pinch it, pull it right loose because it's not bonding to that rubber roof.
It's sticking to it, kinda.
Right, but it's just enough there to kind of give the illusion, and water gets up underneath it and
Mm-hmm.
comes on inside and begins to do the damage.
Well, and you don't know because when you put that stuff up there, it looks pretty good, when
Sure.
it's still wet and still drying, and you're usually going to leave it. You're not going to sit there and watch it dry, so you don't. And it may take a little while for it to loosen up, I assume. So
Right. There's usually some oils in that rubber, and there's sometimes even powder that they put on it to keep it from sticking when they have it rolled up.
okay.
So that silicone just doesn't stick at all. Not
So
at all.
so what kind of sealant do we use? I think we're going to talk about that maybe in the next segment here. But what do we
We
use?
are. hmm
Okay.
There is a butyl caulk, and one of the brand names, one of the trademarks is Dicor, and there's some
Hmm.
other called Alpha, but basically it all boils down to it's a butyl caulk that will actually bond to that rubber roof.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Well, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the roof repairs that you may find yourself needing to do, how to do them, some of the things to avoid in our next segment of Ask the Professor. So stick around, and we'll talk more about your riff. We'll riff on your roof. Get out of here. Come back in a
If you
minute.
say so.
Get. The Texas RV Professor wants to hear from you. Email your questions or comments to professor@rvnn.tv. If you have a specific problem, it really helps if you can send a photo as well. That makes it easier for Terry to diagnose your issue. You can also leave a voicemail for Terry Cooper at 877-578-RVNN, extension 708. Follow RV Newsnet on Facebook and Twitter, and you can receive text messages to alert you when we're streaming live by texting RVNN to 72727. That way, you can join us live in the chat room, ask questions, and become part of the RV Newsnet family. Remember, any photos or other material submitted to us become the property of RV Newsnet and cannot be returned. Today's show is brought to you by Angie's List, where you'll find thousands of unbiased reports and reviews about service companies in your area. Whether you're looking for a roofer, plumber, house cleaner, dentist, or even a doctor, Angie's List members share their experiences with each other so that you can choose the service company that's right for your job. Companies can't pay to be on Angie's List, and the reviews come from people just like you who have had experience with the companies mentioned. To find out more, go to rvnn.tv and click on the Angie's List ad.